Well, I think, as you said, Chairman, this is an issue of vital importance, both for the majority of ordinary people of Europe and critically for the hundreds of millions of the working people and poor of India. And there is huge unease about this proposed free trade agreement among the working masses and poor in India, and very eloquent expression has been given to that unease in, I'm sure, communications that many members of the committee and also the Commission would have received from non-governmental organisations and representatives of different groups of people, trade unions and so forth within India. Now, the problem here, Chairman, is that the fundamental driver of this agreement is quite clearly, from the point of view of the European Union, is the interests of European big business. And Mr. de Gucht himself said quite openly some months back that his job description is to open new markets for European industry and the European services sector. And that really is the intention with regard to the movement into India. And unfortunately, in my view, that is not in the interests of the big majority of the working people and the poor of India at the present time. We are talking here about a population of 700 to 800 million people below the poverty line, according to the Asia Development Bank. And we have, therefore, a huge asymmetry between many aspects of life in India and in the European Union, including the amount of industry, the amount of technology, etc., the ability and the extent of production capacity in Europe as opposed to India, and using the normal crude mechanisms that are employed in free trade agreements with regard to the interests, essentially, of European business being pushed above all else. Here lies great danger for the hundreds of millions of Indian workers and poor. And many of the headings under which this agreement would be worked out will be of serious concern to them in regard to the area of intellectual property rights, patents, etc. In the way that that would be applied, it can have a huge implication for the availability of affordable medicines within India itself, or the manufacture of and exports of medicines from India abroad. With regard to trade in commodities, in agricultural produce, etc., I think there are devastating implications here for small producers, for small farmers, and for small traders who make up about 90% of the population of India at the present time. And if the European big business, agribusiness, etc., throws under an agreement produce, much of it produced under subsidies, etc., they are simply going to wipe out whole strata of the small producers within India and seriously distort the market in India and the situation there for those who depend on small trading, small agriculture, etc. We know already in India that there is a massive crisis among the small farming and the peasant population, with the enormous tragedy of tens of thousands of suicides in the last 10 years because of the grave economic and social difficulties of people in the farming and the rural communities. And I see this as adding seriously to the situation already. The activities of the biotechnology companies, the major seed companies, for example, of the West, have been hugely controversial inside India as they try and gain control of the seed capital, of rice and cereals, etc. And their influence has been entirely baleful. And is this European Union now going to underwrite their right, as they see it, to move in here and to control ever greater proportions of the seed capital and have a stranglehold over what is critical to European farmers? And that's an issue of major concern. Similarly, Chairman, with regard to the retail giants who want to get unrestricted access to India, the informal trading sector is a huge source of sustenance for tens, hundreds of millions of people. And this again would have a devastating impact. Now, of course, around the world there are a number of very powerful Indian big business interests, as there are European big business interests around the world, and each of them is as ruthless as the other. I recently returned from Kazakhstan, where one of the most ruthless companies is ArcelorMittal in mining and in steel. It is a horrific employer with horrible working conditions, danger to workers, etc., etc. And God help the working people of Europe and of India that are left to the mercies of these major conglomerates, whose only driving interest is profit. And I'm sorry to say, but that is also what is driving the free trade agreement. And that is not in the interest, I would say, of the majority of ordinary people of Europe or of India. That we should approach trade. I am in favour of trade, of course, absolutely, of much greater trade and an exchange of technique and technology and know-how and research between the people of Europe and of India, but not on the basis of the baleful control that the big European multinationals want to exercise. Therefore, I am saying quite clearly what my view is, and I think it accords with very many people who represent the poor and farmers and workers in India. Thank you.